Truth Unveiled here, and today I have some urgent stuff to share with you. We're going to be talking about the bigger picture and sharing with you some things that are going on around the world because meanwhile there is an elephant in the room, hence the picture of this video that you saw. But this article from NBC says Trump makes brief first public appearance since returning from hospital. The president again downplayed the coronavirus, seeking to project a sense of normalcy in the final few weeks before the election, or should I say selection. Now, in case you don't already know, about a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that the president tested positive for COVID and was also admitted to the hospital because of it. Now, again, as we've talked about on this network extensively in great detail, when you know the truth about COVID, then you'll know what all of this really is. You'll know what this is really leading up to. You will know the bigger agenda. And for those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, what is the bigger agenda? Because, folks, when they say testing positive for COVID, how do we know Trump even had COVID to begin with? Now, some of you are actually saying that this could all just be a ploy when it comes to the vaccine and getting the vaccine out speedily. And Trump is what? Just a puppet to push the New World Order agenda, and also how it comes around the same time coinciding with the selection, or should I say election, with Biden and Trump and all the debates going on. Don't you see how it is a big circus? Don't you see how it's all puppetry and how Satan is behind the puppetry and behind the bigger scheme? But meanwhile, because it's all a great big show anyway, for those of you who are seeking truth out there, the main thing you need to be focusing on when stuff like this comes out is what's really going on behind closed doors. Because meanwhile, there are some other things that are happening that the news and media are not reporting. At least they're not reporting it here in America. Why do you think that's the case? Because on this network, we've been talking about leading up to the vaccine and COVID vaccines and all of the testing and everything, how they're preparing and conditioning people for their new world order. That's why they're making people wear these masks all over the place, because they want you to be compliant so that when they come out with this beast system technology and when they come out with this vaccine, you will already be conditioned and ready to go. Your mind will already be used to doing what your government tells you to do. But the question is, are you seeing all of this with both your eyes open, or are you still being conditioned to the lies that are currently plaguing this world? Now, we've also been talking about the military as well, and how soon enough the military are going to be distributing vaccines, are going to be on the streets. We told you about the police state and how there would be a police state coming to a police state near you. We've also reported on this network how Trump has even said and stated that they're going to have the military get out the COVID vaccine. But let me tell you this, because mainstream media wants your mind to be focused on this and what's going on with Trump and the circus of that selection. But meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, there is already things that are in place. The military are already on the streets. Let me repeat that in case you did not hear me. The military are already on the streets in the United Kingdom. And if you do not believe me, see for yourself. Now, the video I'm about to share with you was originally posted on YouTube, but was since deleted. Very interesting and suspicious indeed. But what you're going to see is that the military in the United Kingdom are on a suburban street, and they claim that they're giving out tests for COVID. But is that really what they're doing?
Yeah, I'm just walking on Station Road now. There's three people on high-vis, two in army gear. Good afternoon, how you doing, right? What are you guys doing on the streets, if you don't mind me asking?
The City Council, we're just supporting them, handing out COVID tests.
For what reason?
Just to give people a chance to test themselves in the house.
Can I ask you a question? I'm a citizen of Handsworth, and I live in this community. I just want to know, and I'm recording this for my safety and your safety also, why is the need to have the army on our streets and knocking on people's doors and to see if they want to be tested?
We're just here to support the council and hand them out.
But why the army?
just to support. That's all we're here for, just to support the council and help hand out tests.
But if people want to have tests, surely that's their discretion. If they can go voluntarily to any sort of centres to have tested. So why knock on people's doors?
Just to give them the option. They don't have to take it. They can just take it if they want.
And whose directive is this?
Birmingham City Council.
Birmingham City Council. And where's Birmingham City Council got this directive from?
I'm not sure, sorry.
And also, just to say, if you do come knocking on my door and I refuse, is there any repercussions to that?
Of course not, no, it's entirely up to yourself.
And how do you guys feel? I assume you're part of the British Army?
The Air Force.
You are, the Air Force, yeah? And how do you guys feel knocking on people's doors?
Well, I don't want to answer more questions, but we're just here to support, but thank you.
Yeah, but surely, I mean, you're here to, this is a democratic country that we live in, yes? And it's a free country. Do you not think this is a bit draconian in terms of what you guys are doing?
I'm not answering more questions, sorry, but we're just here to support, but thank you.
So you're only here to support?
We're here to support the
Yeah?
council, yeah.
Is there any legal right that you can actually go around knocking on people's doors?
I'm not answering any more questions.
Well, it's not very good. Like I said, I'm not happy as a citizen of Handsworth, and I'm one of the residents around here. And if I do see anybody, any people that I know, I will tell them to refuse to open their doors, because I think it's an absolute liberty of people's civil rights and taking away our freedoms. This is absolute tyranny. Having the army on the streets, yeah? Having the army on the streets. No, listen, I'm saying, having the army on the streets is absolute tyranny. And you guys really should be ashamed of yourselves doing this, you know that? It's absolutely disgusting. Is this what this country's come to now? Absolutely disgraceful. Knocking on people's doors to ask if they want to be tested. There's nothing wrong with people. If people want to get tested, they can go to these test centres if they want to. This is intimidation. You know that. Absolute tyranny. And mark my words, when we get the words out, taking orders from on high. So this is Station Road, people. They're going out knocking on people's doors, asking if they want to have voluntary tests. And we don't even know what these tests are. We don't know what they're for. So please, I say to the community of Handsworth, do not open your doors. And if you do open your doors, politely tell them to go away. Just tell them to go away. Tell them you don't want to test. This is all against the law. Coming around knocking on people's doors. How dare you taking civil liberties out of knocking on people's doors? Well, you shouldn't be asking people, madam, shut your door and tell them no. Right? This is a piss take. The army on the streets. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is Britain, not communist China. Just politely say no, madam. Yeah, you all need to get off the streets. All of you. Why? Why? Because you're taking the piss, that's why. Knocking on people's doors, it's a liberty. Don't just say no. Don't open your doors. They've got no right coming around here knocking on people's doors. This is a liberty. Yeah, you all need to get off the roads, get off the streets and stop knocking on people's doors. Tell them no, love, if they come knocking on your door. Who do you think you are? I'm a citizen of this country, that's who I am, mate. I'm a tax-paying individual. Okay. Well, yeah, you got no right going around knocking on people's doors.
What, giving a free COVID test?
Yes. If people want to have a COVID test, they can go on their own free will. We don't need people like you knocking on people's doors. Okay. Now do one. Okay. Because there'll be many more of us on the streets. Bye. Yeah, goodbye. Goodbye.
We're now here at Forces.net that says COVID-19, how the military's fighting coronavirus. From placing Nightingale hospitals to delivering PPE, the armed forces have been playing a leading role in response to the pandemic. Again, problem, reaction, solution, because as we've gone over, is it really even a pandemic? Or is it a scheme to take away the little to no rights you already don't have and to make you subservient to your government and to the police and to the military? That's for you to decide. But this right here says UK Armed Forces personnel are continuing to have a key role in the country's response to COVID as we head into cold and flu season. Last week, 100 RAF personnel deployed to Birmingham to begin supporting the City Council's drop and collect testing initiative, the video that you just saw for 5 minutes. It has involved delivering coronavirus testing kits to people with or without symptoms who are living in high-risk areas. The health secretary, meanwhile, has said that the military would be involved in distributing a potential coronavirus vaccine. They even tell you right here that they're going to what? Distribute a vaccine as well. Why are they telling you this? And just like the speaker in the video said, people can go to these places, can go to testing centers to get testing kits. Why do the Army need to be passing out testing kits to people on the streets? Not only that, but when it comes to that, the military's response, 20,000 troops were at readiness with more than 4,000 of them deployed at one time. They tell you about the hospitals as we keep reading on. I'm going to scroll through this quickly. I'll leave the link in the description box below if you would like to read more about it. But then it keeps going to talk about mobile testing as well. They are also helping to bring PPE, or the personal protective equipment, to the front line, such as masks, safety glasses, gloves, aprons, and protective suits as well, and also increasing medical capacity. So this again is all what the military is doing. And folks, this is just the United Kingdom alone. Soon enough, as we know and as we talked about, it's going to be coming to America and the rest of the world as well. This is just what, a guinea pig place that they're testing it for before they bring it to the rest of the world. And meanwhile, this is before they come out with the vaccine too. But Forces.net also released this article a week ago that says, Coronavirus Health Secretary, Armed Forces to help distribute coronavirus vaccine. Why do they need to do that? Especially going on the streets doing that. You didn't see them doing that when it came to polio. You didn't see them doing that when it came to all these other ones. So why all of a sudden are they doing it with this one? Not only that, but then it even says here that less than half of the UK population could be vaccinated against COVID, according to the head of the country's vaccine task force. Folks, are you hearing this and what's really going on? And if you're wondering why my voice is so adamant right now, it's because the New World Order is at play even as we speak right now. We're no longer talking about it. We're no longer reporting about it. It's actually here and it's actually happening right before our eyes now. And according to the report, it says the health secretary has said that the military would be involved in distributing a potential coronavirus vaccine, and also that the prime minister said that there will be some bumpy months ahead, but they're working as hard as they can to get the vaccine out as fast and as safely as possible, even though they already have the vaccine ready to go. And they're going to claim too that it may take more than a year for everyone in the UK to get the vaccine. So this vaccine is for everyone. They're already reporting and expecting everyone to take it. How many people are in the UK right now? This is for everyone, according to them. Do you see what this is leading up to? And we've already done how many videos on vaccines and why they're bad for you and why they're not good, and also the ingredients in vaccines, so we don't need to go over that in this video. But for those of you who are still sleeping, especially if you're in America and are saying to yourselves, oh, well, that could never happen to us. Oh, well, that'll never come here. Well, Trump has already said that the vaccine would actually come through the military. Here's the footage.
One issue that has come up is once you do have a vaccine, how do you properly distribute it? How do you get it out quickly to millions?
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up. We have the military all lined up. We have the military all lined up. And the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. The military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers and they do lots of other things that frankly are more difficult. But we have our general, and logistically he's all set. Tony, do you want to say something about that? That is correct. As the vaccine rolls out, we'll be getting them distributed. And as you probably have heard, we are going to make sure that we do it in an equitable way, and it's representative of the populations who need it the most. And we have the standard way that we determine that with the ACIP working with the CDC, but Dr. Collins and Dr. Redfield have put together with the National Academy of Medicine a group that will fortify that decision-making process so that we're making sure that we're very fair and equitable in getting the vaccine distributed properly.
Now, I found this report to be very interesting that comes from the Daily Mail. I'm not going to go over all of it, but we will go over just the bulleted points that say world's first COVID passport technology will be trialed on flights from Heathrow this week in bid to let passengers travel without risk of quarantine in future, but requires authorities to trust test lab results from abroad. Heathrow tested app to let people travel around the world around the plane without quarantine risk. United Airlines and Cathay Pacific are trying out Common Pass software, and that the pass works by passengers taking a test at a certified lab before uploading it. It generates a QR code that can be scanned by airline staff and border officials, but it will require governments to trust COVID tests taken at foreign labs. Well, what is the problem with this? Because you might be thinking to yourself, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad. Oh, that sounds actually really great. Oh, at least they're testing everyone. Well, do you know what they're testing for? Do you know what exactly they're doing? Are they collecting your DNA? Are they collecting certain things about you? Are they spying on you more through these tests? Really, folks, you have to see these things with both your eyes open. But if you would like to read this report, I will link it in the description box below. And not only that, folks, but pay careful attention as well, because now you need to be tested just to travel abroad, just to travel overseas. Soon enough, you're going to need the vaccine. Soon enough, you won't be able to do anything unless you comply with your government, the New World Order. And remember how we talked about for how many years now on this channel, this document, which is an Army document, a U.S. Army document, FM 3-39.40, Internment and Resettlement Operations, that was published about 10 years ago in 2010 from the Department of the Army. It's a 326-page document, which I'm not going to go over all of it, but I will link it in the description box below. The reason I'm bringing it up again right now is because, again, folks, you need to see how this very document is taking place right before our eyes about internment and resettlement, about having the Army and the military on the streets and gathering people soon enough and taking them into FEMA camps or so-called shelters or quarantine places, placing people in quarantines just as we talked about for how many years now. Now it's actually becoming a reality. But again, I will link it in the description box. You can read chapters 1, 2, and 3 that talk about internment and resettlement in the operational environment, and also in support of the spectrum of operations, command and staff roles, and responsibility. The part we're going to go over actually is from chapter 4, capture, initial detention, and screening. If you're following along with us, we're now here on page 59 that says Chapter 4, Capture, Initial Detention, and Screening. Personnel conducting detainee operations must ensure that these operations are performed in a manner that provides for the humane treatment and care of detainees, thereby reducing the probability of incidents of abuse involving U.S. Armed Forces and detainees. Let me ask you this question in case you don't already know the answer to it. Who are the detainees? The detainees are people like you and me. The detainees are people like yourself listening to this video. The detainees are the citizens of these different nations, the citizens of the USA. That's who they classify as detainees. So when they say reducing the probability of incidents of abuse, what exactly are they talking about? Are they hinting at riots? Are they hinting at protests? It seems as though they're planning all of this ahead of time. This document even tells you about the FEMA camps, and there's so much more in this document that exposes it, but we're not going to go over all of it for the sake of time. But right here under 4-2, it says, while one or two detainees may not create a major challenge, A large number of detainees require significantly more soldiers and resources and pose increased security risks to soldiers and themselves. Detainees must be safeguarded, according to them, to include provisions for adequate space, food, and waste disposal. These tasks are manpower intensive and can cause significant delays in onward movement and divert unit assets from the primary mission. Well, what is that mission? Because then it says military police are responsible for receiving, securing, processing, and interning detainees and operating them at these facilities. Do you understand what this is telling you? Again, they're putting the truth right in front of you, and they're basically telling you folks how they're going to be operating these FEMA camps, because now we're at page 67 that says right here, capture, initial detention, and screening, where it says table 4-2, POC, or point of contact processing standards. So what they're required to search you, then they're required to inspect protective equipment, conduct property accountability, and then tag as well. So again, after they capture you and then place you on a bus or place you on a plane or place you on whatever public transportation vehicle that they're going to use to transport you to these FEMA camps, this is what they're going to do once you arrive to these facilities. Then they're going to tag you. They're going to let you know when the day and time you were quote unquote captured, the circumstances, and the capturing unit. They're going to report, segregate, safeguard, evacuate, and then according to them, they're going to release. But see, there is a deeper agenda involved with these FEMA camps. And again, this is a worldwide phenomena. You might have seen this in previous videos before where we've gone over this document, but now we're at page 74 of it where it says methods of transportation: foot, wheeled vehicle, bus. As we've talked about, during bus movement, planners should plan for 2 detainees per seat. Do not allow detainees to stand, sit, or lie on the floor. Lock doors from external threats. When multiple vehicles are used, escort security vehicles may also be necessary. And you see right here the guards where they're going to be placed, as well as the detainees. Cargo truck transport as well. See how they outline where the detainees are going to be placed along with the guards, as well as too with the rail, or what? With railroads and trains as well, and then helicopters as well, where what? Detainees are to sit, the guards are to be there along with the crew as well. Folks, this is already outlined in their documents. This isn't stuff that we're just making up off the top of our head. It's important that you understand the agenda ahead of time. Now, if you read this on your own time, I decide that you also take a look at Appendix H and J, use of force, riots, and facilities, how the FEMA camps will literally look. Your government has already outlined what would take place and what would happen before it actually has happened. And when it comes to COVID and what their plan for their new world order, they've already outlined this stuff out. They've already written the draconian laws, and now we're finally seeing it play out slowly but surely as we're reporting now. But here we are talking about what? The executive orders that will lead to FEMA, that will suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And these executive orders have been signed by your presidents for the past how many decades now, including 10990 that allows the government to take over all modes of transportation and control of highways and seaports, allowing them to seize control of communication media, allowing them to take over all electrical power, gas, petroleum, fuels, and minerals, including transportation like what? Cars, trucks, or vehicles or any kind, and total control over all highways, seaports, and waterways. Didn't we just go over that in that document about transportation and resettlement via transportation? Because many people are going to try to say, oh, but the government can't do this and the army can't do this. It is a bridge of our rights and they cannot do this because they are violating our rights, just like what was said in that video. However, what they're going to tell you is that they've already signed executive orders and that legally the government can do that in the event of a national emergency. Didn't Trump declare a national emergency? But if we keep reading, Executive Order 10999 allows the government to take over food resources and farms. 11,000 allows them to mobilize citizens into work brigades under government supervision. That sounds like what? FEMA camps, doesn't it? And then 11,001 allows them to take over health, education, and welfare functions. 11,002 designates the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. It's interesting. Haven't they been doing that with the census? Is that why they're so adamant about what? The 2020 census and everyone filling it out and even making fines if people don't? Wow, very interesting and suspicious indeed. 11,003 allows them to take over all airports and aircraft, including commercial aircraft. Why? So that the military can come in and start putting people on the aircraft to take them to these FEMA camps. And then 11,004 allows the Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, build new housing with public funds, designate areas to be abandoned, and establish new locations for populations. Why would they need to do that? Because they have abandoned railways and abandoned locations, as we've talked about improving on this network. They already have these locations that are secret that will be used to house these FEMA camps into what? In order to try and control people and convert their mind and what? Use this vaccine and utilize it in order to try to condition and control your mind to be subservient to the satanic kingdom once it soon enough is manifested. And then 11,005 and then 11,051. Now again, if you would like to read this, you can pause the video at your own time so that you can read it. This one just talks about government taking over public storage facilities and waterways, and also when it comes to authorization to be in effect during what? Increased international tensions and economic or financial crisis. Well, aren't we seeing that with COVID and how it's affected how many businesses and how many people had to file for unemployment? Don't you see how this is already taking place right before our eyes? Not only that, but 11,310 also grants authority to the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, to enforce plans that were made in executive orders to institute industrial support, establish judicial and legislative liaison, to control all aliens, to operate penal and correctional institutions, and to advise and assist the president as well. Executive Order 11,049 assigns emergency preparedness function to federal departments and agencies, consolidating 21 operative executive orders issued over a 15-year period. And then 11,921 allows what? The Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency, or FEMA, to develop plans to establish control over the mechanisms of production and distribution, energy sources, wages, salaries, credit, and the flow of money in the U.S. Isn't that interesting? Because wasn't there a supposed coin shortage as well? Wow, what a national emergency, just like with COVID. Wow, not a coincidence whatsoever. So you see what this is leading up to, along with the National Security Act of 1947 that allows strategic relocation of industry, services, government, and other essential economic activities, and to rationalize the requirements for manpower, resources, and production facilities. So again, you can pause the video for more reference, or better yet, you can look up this stuff yourself so you can do more research so that you are not asleep to the world around you. So how are we protected from the vaccine and the military and what's to come? By seeking Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because when we do this, we know we have no fear, for we are protected indeed. But this is Truth Unveiled here, keeping you updated and saying as always, Shalom.